Bush the Menace kind of relationship, and apparently Bush watched it and said that's the stupidest thing I've ever seen. And like, but of course, look at your son, Mr. Bush.
Is it still vulgar and subversive?
Well, we've always been true to ourselves, and like David said, like the landscape has certainly changed. Where, what's considered vulgar is now moved. Things have gotten much coarser, but we always try to undercut assumptions. One of my favorite things we did recently is we asked Banksy to do a couch gag, as if he was graffitiing The Simpsons, and we didn't tell anybody it was coming, and people were completely stunned. They were like, "What was that?" And he implied that our DVDs are made by unicorns punching the hole in the center. It was just like pretty funny.
And can you get away with anything and everything? I mean, famously, there are jokes about Rupert Murdoch, who's been on your show, and there are jokes about Fox, which is the channel that you're on. You seem to be able to lampoon anything.
It goes in waves, because actually the standards actually tightened up at some points over there. This particularly after the Janet Jackson wardrobe malfunction, and there were big fines being levied for networks that let things slip through. So suddenly we were getting a lot stronger censor notes, like you have to cover up that cartoon character's butt crack. a lot of notes like that. Yeah.
Except we were still airing the butt cracks earlier in the day in syndication.
Yeah, when we were editing some of the episodes, it became such a running thing with me and the editor that it was like we got to do a standard butt crack paint out on that shot.
But it still usually feels subversive, and it still feels quite radical. I mean, and I can't remember precisely which year, but I think I might say Springfield was in favour of same-sex marriage very, very early on.
2005, they legalized it, yeah. Right. Which is, at the time it was considered controversial in the U.S., although we always felt there was going to be one way that position would finally go.
We actually stepped in Futurama on the same side of the issue with, we had George Takei on to host a debate about robosexual marriage, which is the marriage of a robot to a human. So we managed to get our take on it too.
Didn't Homer end up saying he'd marry anything to anybody or something?
Well, he got this. One of our writers actually had this happen. The writer of the episode, he got a minister's license online, which enabled him to perform marriages for money. So yeah, he would marry anybody to anything.
So what's the future, Dave? You said you're sort of not quite sure about what happens next for Futurama. You've been cancelled again, but do you go back to The Simpsons? You got some new ideas? What can you tell us?
I don't know, Al.
Sure, yeah.
I'm just taking a tiny bit of what I hope is a well-deserved break right now, because it's such hard work when we're doing it, and the final product seems so lighthearted and quick, but a lot of work goes into it. So I got some ideas though.
Al, and you just
want The Simpsons to keep going and
keep the ship afloat.
Yeah, it's for 25